Hey, I'm catiewahwah and you're watching The Record Review. Hi, so this month there are a lot of really exciting albums being released and about to be released, so I thought it's high time we had a little chat about them. So let's dive straight into March's most anticipated pressings. First up, it's Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds with Chasing Yesterday. You probably are more familiar with Noel Gallagher from Oasis. This is his second album with this newer band, Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, but it's very much driven by his personality and him and his style, so it's very cool. I definitely have had a lot more appreciation for Noel Gallagher since he started to appear on Russell Brand's Six Music radio show like 10 years ago, but I just think that he has a really interesting personality and really interesting perspective and creates great music. Next, Purity Ring are releasing their second album, Another Eternity. You were young and you'd stare where my limbs hung fire. So I actually found out about Purity Ring mainly through comments on one of my videos, but I hadn't listened to them a lot before, but I started listening to them and I really love that kind of slightly ethereal, mystical, electronic sound that they've got. I think it's a really exciting way of adding this dark edge to electronic. It's that kind of witch house genre. Sometimes electronic music can feel a bit more logical and a bit more precise, but to add back in that kind of more mystical element is really cool. And I find that really exciting about Purity Ring. Next, Marina and the Diamonds is releasing her third album, Froot, a little early. So I know that a lot of you guys are really excited about this album, and I think it's really interesting how they've had to release it a whole month earlier than it was originally meant to be released because it was leaked online. That whole issue of albums being leaked online is something that I find really interesting, and the way that it affects how albums are then released, so I don't know, I might even do a video on that because that's something that is a whole topic to discuss. Marina and the Diamonds is another artist who I was really sort of introduced, not so much introduced to, but sort of pointed towards from the comments again. You guys are really good at knowing my taste. So I had heard stuff from her first album before, but I hadn't really heard anything from like Electra Heart. And I started listening to that and I love Electra Heart now. I love the style of it. I love the way that it seems to be influenced by that like Valley of the Dolls aesthetic. From the singles that I've heard so far, it sounds like Froot is going to be a little more rock, a little less electro than Marina and the Diamonds' previous work. Marina and the Diamonds is also doing something really cool with this album, which has kind of been interrupted by the leak. She's been releasing it on 7 inches. Each 7-inch has 2 songs, and then I think there are going to be 6 of them, and they're all going to build up to create basically the full album. I actually have the first 2 that have been released, and we're still waiting for the next 4, which I don't know when they're going to come out now. They were originally going to come out in early April, but now the whole album's been pushed forward, so I don't know how the pressings are going to work with that. So I had the first song, which the A-side is Froot and the B-side is Happy. They're all different coloured vinyl, and they also each have a different fruit in the corner, and it's like scratch and sniff. So this one is Grape, and then the second 7-inch is Immortal with I'm a Ruin as the B-side, and that's like a yellow vinyl. It's got a little lemon scratch and sniff bit. Lemony. I think that Marina is releasing the full album as a 12-inch as well. I really love this idea of releasing the individual 7 inches. And I know that Fall Out Boy are doing something similar with the vinyl edition of their American Beauty, American Psycho album, which I think is going to be like a record store day exclusive, but it's going to be, the entire album is only going to be released as a series of 7 inches, which is really interesting, and that is another album that I am really intrigued by and I would love to discuss, but the vinyl is like weird, so I had to figure out how to get that. So I am really excited to complete my Marina Froot collection, and I will definitely be reviewing that and showing you guys all the vinyl when I get them. Next up, Twin Shadow is releasing his third album, Eclipse. The sooner I pull away. I really love Twin Shadow. I don't think that he gets anywhere near the attention that he should. I guess I'd describe him as indie pop, kind of quite influenced by new wave music though as well. His sound is very chilled out but emotional, and it's a really interesting mix. I also really like him as an artist because I really like his perspective on song meaning and interpretation. When he was talking about Turn Me Up, he said that he thinks it's really important that people take what they need from songs, they take the meaning that they need from certain music, and I think that that's a really interesting perspective on it, because I think that every time you listen to music, You kind of bring your own perspective to it, as well as trying to interpret what the artist might have originally meant from it, which I think is cool. I think it's cool that he's really open to that and not too precious about the meaning that he might have given to his work. Next, there's a bit of country from Houndmouth with Little Neon Limelight.
Well, hey, little Hollywood, you're gone, but you're not forgotten.
Houndmouth are very cool in that they seem to be an alternative country band. They take a lot of the ideas and instrumentation and vocal styles from country music, but they seem to be adapting it in a sort of more alternative indie way. They're originally from Indiana, and this is their second album. Their songs are really soothing and they transport you to that Americana world, especially songs like Sedona, which I really like. Next up, it's a big one, Bjork's Vulnicura. I know what you're about to say, this came out in January, but did it? Because actually it didn't. Vulnicura, like Froot, was leaked online, so Bjork just ended up having to go with that Beyoncé surprise album style of it. But Vulnicura was actually originally planned to coincide its release with the retrospective at MoMA in New York. And apparently it's a really amazing exhibition going on. So it seems that the vinyl pressing of Vulnicura has taken the same amount of time that it would have taken, so that's only coming out this month. But I am so excited about Vulnicura. I've already heard bits of it. I've been holding off on hearing the whole album because I want to hear it on vinyl. I love Bjork. I think that she is so unique and just unashamedly innovative. She just does things because she knows that they're good without waiting for somebody to kind of tell her that it's okay to do it. Classic example is the swan dress. Look it up if you haven't heard of that before. I'm really excited to see what's going to be in the vinyl edition specifically, because she's one of those artists who's so interested in both the sonic and the visual aspects of her work. Also, this is really exciting because Bjork worked with Arca on this. Arca is a really interesting guy. He's a Venezuelan producer who works mainly out of London, but he worked on FKA Twigs' LP1, he also worked on her EP2, and he also worked on Kanye's Yeezus album. So he's got something really, really interesting going on, and he's been credited with helping a lot of artists to find their sound. So I think that that combination of Bjork and Arca is just very, very, very interesting. And I'm really looking forward to just sitting down and listening to that new album. Next up, it's the Go Team with The Scene Between. This is the Brighton Six Pieces' fourth album, and I realized that they have just been really well spacing their albums. I remember hearing Thunder Lightning Strike back in like 2004 when I was still in school, and I just remember thinking that it was such like a fresh, energetic sound, and I really associate that high energy, just generally exciting and inspiring sound with them, and I just think that there are going to be a lot of good singles off of that. Laura Marling is releasing her fifth album, Short Movie. So Marling had moved from London to LA, and I know that she started to write this album when she was in LA, and then she apparently scrapped a bunch of the songs, and then she moved back to London, and then she kind of reworked it, and then eventually finished it when she was back in London. I'm always interested in the stories behind albums, and I think that definitely gives it a really interesting perspective. I really associate Laura Marling with that first group of British artists who were making folk kind of popular again. There are very few bands that I am obsessed with, but this is one of them. It's Death Cab For Cutie with Kintsugi.
Revolve around you. How could
I love these guys so much. I love them so much. Their albums mean everything to me. So Kintsugi is Death Cab's 8th album, and I started to get suspicious that this was coming when they started to play pretty much every festival last year. Unfortunately, this is kind of a farewell album to Chris Walla, because he announced that he was leaving the band, and then he stayed on to kind of contribute to this album, but ultimately he's leaving after Kintsugi. This is also the first Death Cab album to feature an outside producer, who is Rich Costey. So Death Cab's albums all used to be produced by the band and kind of inside, and it was this group effort thing, and now they're changing because Chris Walla is leaving, so it's really sad. I like how they've done it. I think they've done it in a very Death Cab way. They've named the whole album after this Japanese art called Kintsugi, where you take broken pottery and you kind of remake it into a different pattern. And it's the idea that although something is broken, you can still make something beautiful out of that breakage. I could not have thought of a more Death Cab way of dealing with a member leaving, but Ben's still there, so that's alright. Finally, Sufjan Stevens' 7th album, Carrie and Lau.
Now that I fell into your arms.
If you've heard any of the singles from this album, like No Shade in the Shadow of the Cross, you've probably been amazed at how beautiful this album is. It's a real return to Sufjan Stevens' more indie folk style, and it's actually named after his mother and his stepfather. Apparently the songs were really inspired by the death of Stevens' mother in 2012 and the trips that they would take as a family to Oregon when Stevens was growing up. Sufjan Stevens has such an interesting and beautiful sound. It's that kind of music that can reach through you and kind of wrap itself around your heart. Those albums that come from really pivotal life events are usually the most interesting that artists make. So Carrie and Lau, I just think, coming from Sufjan Stevens and then also being about this really important event in his life, it's just gonna be so beautiful, and I'm just really wanna just listen to it. So that's it. That's what I'm looking forward to this month. I am really looking forward to discussing these with you guys in the comments. Please let me know your thoughts on any of these albums, and also if you have any thoughts on all these albums being leaked online and how that's affecting the kind of music industry and albums in general. I'm really interested to have that discussion with you guys. Also, be sure to let me know if I missed out anyone who I should definitely have included. And if you'd like to listen to some of the songs from these albums, then I have once again made a full playlist for you guys, and I will put the link in the end card again. If you haven't already and you would like to get notifications when I post new videos, be sure to subscribe. Go on. Go on. Also, if you'd like a free kitten, then be sure to like this video. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and me and Alex will see you in my next video. Bye!